Uyilamba kwesi nakukuli. Noma ndikwite shanibonaka. Noma ndikwite shanibonaka. Shaniboma nchacha shanibebaka. Shanibo shonongo shanibeba ndure. Shanibo akaombe shanibeba mushere. Uyilamba kwesi nakukuli. Shanibo manchanja, shanibeba machi. Shanibo shonongo, shanibeba chikuru. Shanibo akaonge, shanibeba kadire. Uyilamba kwesi nakukuli. Uyilamba kwesi nakukuli. Uyilamba kwesi nakukuli. Uyilamba kwesi nakukuli.
Good evening, Zambia. Good evening, Chiwempala. Good evening, Luansha, my hometown. Good evening, all world, wherever you are watching us this evening. Welcome to a special edition of TV Wakwetu. I'm joined by Dr. Melissa, our resident pharmacist, Jerome Kanyika. Good evening, Dr. Melissa.
Good evening, Frank. How are you? Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Great, thank you. And how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? How's the little boy?
Great, great. Growing very fast. It's growing very, very fast.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so great to see him grow. Good evening, my Jerome.
Yeah, but Frank, good evening. And it's nice at least no one is troubling you. I hope you have been sleeping so nice since the boy now is a little bit grown. Then,
you just get used to not sleeping. That's all. You just get used to that. You get used to it.
Yeah. Okay.
This evening, we got a topic that is very important. As I'm sure we have read over the last few days that there was another rollout of vaccines, that of COVID vaccination that was happening in Zambia, and there's still a lot of people who are skeptical. A lot of people are cautious. For me, what is important is it's okay to be cautious. It's okay to be a little bit cautious and ask the questions, but it's always important that we get the facts before we're cautious. So this evening, we are joined by Dr. Melissa, who's going to explain a little bit of the vaccine, because she's a doctor, she's an expert, we're not, and I'm not going to pretend to be one. So, Dr. Melissa, if you can just give, you've got a background of any research that's happened, how many people have had vaccines across the world, and if all the myths that are going around in the country at the moment, how true are all these myths that are going on around in the country?
Thanks, Frank. It's really a bit disheartening to see some of the myths that keep going around, to seeing all these social media, videos and voice notes that are going around, really giving more or less like scaremongering, because a lot of the things that are going around are actually not based on real facts. Most of it is probably as a result of, because the people behind them maybe are scared or are afraid themselves, because obviously we've been in this situation for close to 2 years now. We're going on in this pandemic. We've had now the opportunity to really get into understanding what the disease is, coming up with vaccines that can prevent severe disease. So we've really come a long way in terms of the scientific community in trying to understand COVID-19 and in trying to come up with preventative measures that would kind of alleviate and help us go back to a dignified new normal. So in terms of the numbers so far that's been vaccinated globally, I mean, we're now seeing over 2 billion individuals the worldwide over who've been vaccinated. Unfortunately, the numbers in Africa are not that impressive. Africa, I think, accounts for less than 10% of the individual out of that 2 billion who've been vaccinated so far. And there are a number of things that account for this. Some of it could be as a result of the fact that we have had inequities in terms of vaccine access and supply. But a lot of it is due to the fact that not a lot of people are coming forward to take the vaccines. In Zambia, for instance, we've fully vaccinated individuals do not even account to up to 500,000 of the adult population, or 500,000 of the people who are eligible to get the vaccines. So there is quite a lot of myths that need to be debunked. And for me particularly, I'm glad that Zambia is now taking serious strides to really come up and get the populace vaccinated. This has been seen as higher up as in the presidential office, where we now have a COVID-19 specific country advisor to the president. So I think we'll begin to see, and we are seeing now, of course, that you've mentioned, we've now just they relaunched the vaccine program last week to try and, bring the numbers up in terms of people who are being vaccinated. And you can see, based on the relaunch, we're seeing quite a number of people trickling in to the vaccine centers. But I think there's more that can be done. And I'm glad that you've come up with this initiative to get us talking about this and getting the right information out there. Before I go on to talk about what scientific evidence there is so far, maybe Jerome, as the pharmacist, you might want to give us what the in-country dynamics are at the moment, because obviously you and I, Frank, are sitting in the diaspora. There might be other in-country dynamics that are at present that we might not necessarily be aware of.
Okay. Thank you for for that, Doc. Yeah, I can say that yes, we saw the relaunch of the COVID-19 vaccination, just like you have put it, and at least we saw, yes, the presidential or the political will by the president making an office in his office. So itself, that should tell you to say this president means business. But just like you have observed, the number of people vaccinated in Zambia are yes less than 500,000. That's something that is worrying for most of us, especially myself, and especially that we are anticipating a fourth wave coming or coming by December somewhere there. That is very, very, very worrying. And the fact that we lifted the restrictions, that now brings a lot of serious concerns. But besides that, I hope, and you people in diaspora, Frank and Dr. Kapulu, you have seen how where the countries where you are, where the demanding that you need to get vaccinated for you to go to supermarket, nightclubs, and other other areas other areas where you are supposed to do or mingle with other people. And I wish, as the president was relaunching, in as much as he gave that, in as much as he gave that speech, I wanted the president to mention about his workers to get all vaccinated before they report for work, or it gives them the date at what date they need to get vaccinated. Who are his workers? The civil servants. For me, that's what I was expecting, because we need to push up the numbers. And as you know very well, it's only after we get vaccinated, like the way Doc you have mentioned, that's when we are going to say we are much safer. Right now, we are nowhere safe. And if the fourth wave chipped in any time, the country economy will be hammered terribly. And we have seen how COVID has affected the entire global economy for the past 1 year. And so we need to get prepared and do what other people are doing. And in that case, maybe later I'll talk about why I want the mandatory vaccination for all the frontliners. And I know, Doc, you are going to accept to agree with me over this.
I think we can.
No.
We've got to be very, very careful. I think
Yes.
we have to go away from it has to be mandatory. I think what people need is education. That we have to give people the information that they need and make a decision on or make a decision on the information available to them. I've had the vaccine. I've had 2 jabs of vaccine. I made that choice. I made that choice based on me. Nobody said you need to go and have this vaccine. I made that choice. I think we have to go away as a country from, if we want something done, let's make everybody do it. At the moment, what people need is education. So a lot of people don't have the vaccine because Manachanda Pakona said she heard something about something. So what we need is trying to get the people who've got the information to educate our people so that people can make that choice to say, I'm going to get a vaccine, so that they understand that for them getting a vaccine is not just about protecting themselves. For them getting a vaccine is protecting the more vulnerable people in their family, like their grandparents and little children who can have a vaccine. So that's where we need to go. And I don't agree on making it mandatory. Let's educate people. And as Africa, we have to really go away from making people to do stuff. We have to try and make people want to do something, and we can't take away that choice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Frank. I think we shouldn't make it a mandatory requirement for people to get vaccinated. Being vaccinated is it's on a voluntary basis. And I'm with you 100%, is that we need to just ensure we give people the right information, debunk the myths. And like you've said, now we now have political will. We can now see top leadership, like at the highest level, going out to get vaccinated and giving the reasons why they're being vaccinated. It's a matter of getting the right key messages out there to the community. For me, I feel we need to get the vaccine to the people. We shouldn't wait for people to come to the vaccination centers. Let's get the vaccine to the people. We had Chipolo Polo playing over the weekend with Equatorial Guinea. We could have easily set up tents outside the Independence Stadium, giving out information to the people as they were going into the stadium to watch the football. Let's get the vaccines to the people. Let's get the information to the people. Why are people not coming out? It could be that they don't have the right information. They're not sure exactly where and how to get the vaccines. In as much as there is information out there, we might think it's publicly available because we are able to access the information. There might be somebody in Lufwanyama right now who does not know that there's even a vaccine available for them. So how much information has disseminated to every corner of Zambia, ensuring that there's this possibility for one to get vaccinated and protect themselves. Not only are they protecting themselves from severe disease, but it's about their community and the wider population. The idea is that if we increase the numbers of the eligible population that's getting vaccinated, it means that we're getting a wider range of people who are likely to be protected just by the fact that there's 80 to 70% of the population that's protected by virtue of being vaccinated.
And I think there's another very important point. I would like you to elaborate on this a little bit.
Can I chip in, Frank? Can I just chip in?
Yeah, just one question, and then you come in. I'd just like Dr. Melissa to just elaborate on this point. Well, if people don't get vaccinated, if the virus lingers, there's a possibility that if it lingers, that virus will mutate.
Well, yes. I mean, the waves at the moment are very linked to variants. They're calling themselves, they call them variants of concern. So these are this is the virus mutating. And what we need to bear in mind is that the virus also wants to survive. This is the first entry it's had into the human population. So it's trying to find room in a host and to survive within that particular host. And the host currently is us human beings. So it will find a way to fight the immune system. Hence the reason why we're getting these variants. So the first variant was what they referred to as the alpha variant. That's variant of concern, which was initially spotted in the United Kingdom. And then we had the beta variant, which was then identified in South Africa. And then we've had the Delta variant was identified in India. So far in Zambia, we've had waves from the beta and the Delta variant. There's likely a fourth wave coming, and there's already variants of concern that have been picked up coming that are circulating. And it's just it could be, I mean, if you look at how the variants have come in, is because people are moving. You might, even though there's requirement for people to be to have a PCR negative test when they're traveling, not all countries have that requirement. So there's people who are moving who are not necessarily showing symptoms, but they have the virus, or they're incubating the virus and then later on manifest with either severe illness or mild illness. So I think it's very important that with the anticipation of a fourth wave, I mean, some countries have had mini fourth waves. It's just a matter of time that we will have the next wave. And it's whether or not we can get all the necessary prevention mechanisms in place to help us not have such a huge the variants have such a huge impact on our population. Of course, now we've lifted the measures. I mean, people can freely move around if they are supposed to wear masks, there's need to physical distance. But on top of that, we need to get a second and third layer of protection. And what that second layer of protection is vaccination. I mean, some of the things that keep going around is, oh, well, we know in 2 years' time, everybody who's gotten vaccinated, you're going to die because somebody out there said it is appointed for everybody who gets COVID-19 vaccinated will die in 2 years. The first person who ever got the COVID-19 vaccine has had more than a year since they got the COVID vaccine. By next year, March, April actually will be 2 years. So far, we've had more people dying out of COVID than we've had people dying out of, in fact, we've had more COVID-related deaths than we've had any deaths with as a result of vaccination. So I think the key is let's get the right information out there. And how do we get the right information? Let's translate it. We need our guys in Lufanyama to have it in Lamba, in Kaonde, Luvale. Let's get the message out there so that the people can understand it at their own level. And I think the other thing is that, of course, us scientists have not known how to communicate the science that we do very well. We hide behind our lab coats and our wars in the lab and shy away from platforms like this where we can educate and communicate what we do. I think that has largely impacted why we have so much vaccine hesitancy in our communities, just because there isn't that level of understanding that that is required on how vaccines are made, how you end up with a needle and syringe that's injected into your arm. A good example is that we are happy to take our under 5 kids to Chilenge Clinic to get vaccinated. We line up in queues. We ensure that they get their BCG vaccine, their polio vaccine. We ensure they get their rotavirus vaccine. They get their measles vaccine. They get all the hip vaccine. They get diphtheria. They get all. In fact, now the EPI schedule is such that it's full of vaccines all the way from birth up to 9 months old children. We religiously take our kids to get vaccinated. But when we now comes to us as adults to get vaccinated, we are thinking, but Ikwena, but Frank Alan did it, Shan. But you're basing it on what Frank has told you, but you have not gone out to get the information for yourself.
And Frank is not even a doctor as well.
Frank is not even an expert. In fact, Frank is hearing it from Jerome, who has heard it from Elias. And Munsha has probably heard it from, I don't know, somebody else. Third party becomes Chinese whispers in the end. I think Jerome wanted to raise a point.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. I think in terms of talking to the people and in terms of disseminating the information, I can say concerning the vaccines, the Ministry of Health has done a recommendable job, and at least they have talked to the people. But the issue and the problem that I did have is the fourth wave that we are anticipating. It will be worse than the third wave that we had, and the third wave did us very, very bad. Already, our health sector, our health system is in a very bad state that cannot actually handle any serious pandemic. You saw about the issues of oxygen cylinders running out. You saw about the issues of hospitals having shortages of all the drugs and what we use in the fighting against coronavirus. So all those things were happening, but this time, since now the numbers have reduced and we're having about 1 to 2% in terms of the people we are testing, better now we take advantage and make sure that we get a lot of people be vaccinated. How do we do the lot of people being vaccinated? we have seen that the voluntary way of wanting people getting vaccinated from April to today, which is a good 6 to 7 months, has given us 3.8%. And from the 3.8%, some have even died. So you know that the numbers of people who are vaccinated is far less than that. But how can we improve on the numbers? We should now make things, as much as you can say we cannot make mandatory, though me, I'm for the mandatory way. We can make people do things in the way that we want them to get vaccinated, just like the way it is. If I want to enter a certain mall right now, I'll be asked to make sure that I put on a mask. If I don't have a mask, they'll say, no, you cannot enter here, go look for the mask. What will be the problem with, again, those people asking for the mask for ask me for my vaccine certification? What is so difficult with that? It is now the right time where we need to differentiate the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, and we need to push aside the unvaccinated to be somewhere else and to push them to be confined in their homes, and let the vaccinated be free to mingle and do other activities, going to nightclubs, going to supermarkets, going to shop, so that at least we can have those who are unvaccinated not to get not those who are unvaccinated to get vaccinated. If we still maintain with the same strategy and expect to have different results, I can assure you we are lying to ourselves. There is no one currently in Zambia who have not heard about the vaccines, but people are just have that hesitance among themselves to go get the vaccine. No wonder you're saying, if a health worker, a frontliner, not only health workers are frontliners, we have shopkeepers, we have journalists, we have police officers, can be told to say, before you start attending to the public, you need to get protected. By how do you get protected? By you getting vaccinated. Then in that way, it will be very much okay. I've heard a lot of other states in the United States that have come up with a policy to make sure that all the public workers are mandated to get vaccinated. That we can do, and Zambia can also go that route so that we can improve on the numbers. Imagine WHO set to say by 30th of September, Zambia and other developing country, they should get 10% of those people eligible to get vaccinated, to be vaccinated. And in Zambia, we are about 8.4 million Zambians who are supposed to get vaccinated. Instead of even us having a 5%, but we went, and on 30th of September, we saw that we had only 3.8% of the population are vaccinated. Besides that, well, by the end of this month, we have some vaccines that are going to expire. Not that they are going to expire because they came with a short expiry date. No, because people are not voluntarily willing to take up the vaccines. Why should we expire the vaccines that we are lobbying from other countries, that we are asking the rich countries to send to us? How can we take advantage to improve the uptake?
Where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line? So, for example, if I'm sat at home and I say I don't want to have the vaccine, so what are you going to do, Jeremy? Are you going to call the army or the police to come and drag me from my house to go and take me and have me vaccinated? I think one thing that we over the last year, there's been a lot around April and stuff when the vaccine was launched in the country. Let's be honest. The conversation was more about politics and everything else. Very little information. There is a vaccine. There was so very little conversation about vaccines. And what we had again at that time is a lot of information was filtering through. The wrong information was filtering through to the country. And there was a strong reaction of, I don't want to have the vaccine. They say everybody was like, they're making this stuff to kill us Africans. There was all this thing that was going around. There was a strong reaction against COVID, And frankly, there wasn't enough education that's going through. And at the moment, we've got an opportunity to say we can educate. I've had the vaccine. I had my vaccine. I was probably one of the first 1,000 people in the UK to have a vaccine. I had it like 2 weeks after it launched. I've had my doses. I've had my booster. I'm fine. I have not died. I've not had anything wrong. It's everything that we have to understand. Where is the information come from? If you go Pakornam Kshtutute and the person telling Tute said, this is what I heard about vaccine, that's probably the wrong person to get that information from. Ask your doctors, ask your clinicians, get that information.
But I think, Frank, the other aspect to it is just about building trust. I mean, it took such a long time for the government to begin the rollout of the vaccine. I mean, Malawi was already vaccinating before Zambia could even vaccinate. Not that there's anything wrong with Malawi, but just as an example. So there were countries around, I mean, even Zimbabwe was vaccinating before we even began vaccinating. So it was also, I agree with you, it was largely driven by politics. I think now we are in a new dispensation. There's new political will to get us to get the health system in, really to a place where we need it to be. I think it's about building trust. Remember, we're coming from a situation where we had all these Ministry of Health related scandals. So people have built in mistrust. And even messaging around COVID, for a long time, people thought COVID does not exist until somebody they knew, it took the ministry to take the cameras into Levy Hospital to show people that, look, it's real. People are on oxygen. People are dying. So there's been so much mistrust in the Ministry of Health that I think we need to build that trust from scratch all over again. And that trust needs to be built by being transparent, ensuring that the numbers are out there as much as possible, ensuring that all the data and all the processes in regards to how the vaccines are coming in, how they're being stored. More recently, that scandal with Findlay hasn't helped as well. So there's so many things that have kind of built up and led to so much mistrust, not necessarily compounded with all the social media myths that have gone around. I should say also the French, those two French doctors that came out and said, let's start testing the Africans first. That just also destroyed any level of trust that there needs to have in the process of vaccine development. So I think we really kind of need to kind of go back to the drawing board and say, how do we begin to build this trust? And I think the new government is sort of heading that way by obviously appointing a COVID specific advisor to the president and seeing them now going out on TV, on radio, giving out the information. Seeing the Minister of Health, previously the Minister of Health was on TV, he had gotten his shot. But there were, how many cabinet ministers at the time had we seen coming out, full front in front of television saying, I've gotten my shot, come and get yours. I think now there's really good momentum to build up and say, look, I am vaccinated, get the vaccine. But I think I will keep saying this, it's not let's get the vaccine to where the people are. Let's not wait for people to come to Chawama or any of the other health facilities where the vaccines are available. Let's get the vaccines to where the people are.
That's a very important point, because we see as it's not only in Africa or in Zambia where people are skeptical. We had this in the UK of younger generations. They were a little bit reluctant. So a lot of things that they did is when people went back to universities, you saw these pop-up clinics just pop up at the campus, and then somebody would go and they would ask questions and they will have those questions answered. So the message of taking it to where the people are is a very, very important one. And we have to remember this. Can we take it to the market? If all those people think I need to make food today, can we take it there so that they can have their vaccine there and they can carry on with their day? So it's very important. And I can see where Jerome is coming from. You get worried, you get concerned. Our health system is not strong enough to cope with a fourth wave. It just isn't. So when we're saying to our Zambian people, go and get your vaccines, you don't want to have a situation where you're ill and you can't even get a bed because there's so many other people that are ill. And it's something that we've been doing, Dr. Melissa, myself, and a few other Zambians in the diaspora, and a lot of people around in the diaspora. They've been fundraising so that they can send these equipment back home. Because when we had the third wave, we had this information that the hospitals couldn't cope. The hospitals didn't have they didn't have the things that they need to treat the patients. And there are people every single day are going out there fundraising to raise money to send back so that the hospitals can cope. But what we need from the people is to also have the vaccine, is to also go out there and say, what can I do? Get the information from the people who can give you the right information. You don't wait till, this is a sad story. I know somebody in Zambia, they refused to have a vaccine. They did not have a vaccine until their mother passed away from COVID. Don't wait until something happens in your family for you to take action. Do something with your family today. And like I said, get information from the people who got the right information. In everything that we do, whether it's in business, whether it's in whatever things we do in our life, if we want to make the right decision, we always find the right people. We always find the right people. So let us have the same attitude to get that information from the right people. Ask questions. Ask questions to the right people. It's okay to have concerns. I'm not saying you should not have a concern. It's okay when you've got a concern, but don't share that concern with everyone else.
Let me just come in, Frank. I'm happy you've mentioned one cardinal point where you've said the young generation, there was some inertia, but eventually they got vaccinated, and at least the numbers of people are vaccinated there are very encouraging as compared to the numbers we have in Zambia. But we know very well that we are living in a global world, and we are knowing and hearing what other countries are doing concerning the people get vaccinated. If you agree with me, even you, Dr. Melissa, you agree with me that in the UK, there are some universities, if not all universities, who demanded for their students as they go back to campus for their vaccination certificate. Well, in Zambia, we are not doing that. When you want to watch Frank, if you want to watch Manchester United versus Chelsea live in the stadium, would you be allowed to enter without you showing your vaccination status? Please answer that for me.
Right, so you need to show two things, and this is where we have to get it right. So you need to show. So if I was going to go to watch a football match, if I was going to go to a concert, I need to have two things. I need to either have a COVID. I need to either have proof of having my COVID vaccine, or I need to have proof of having taken a lateral flow test. So it doesn't necessarily mean. So if I'm going to go to watch Manchester United, as you put it, all I need that day, I don't need a vaccine. I need to have just done a lateral flow test at home and say, here is proof of my negative COVID test. So I do not necessarily need to have done my COVID.
So if you don't have any of those, are you going to be allowed to watch?
No, the answer is no.
Why? Because they need you to get those, not so. But you should understand one thing here. The simple test that you may say that you can do in the UK cannot be done here in Zambia. That's the other challenge that we have. We don't have power or enough machinery that can do a lot of tests I think there's some echo coming back. I don't know. Maybe help me to just switch the mic. I'm hearing my voice again. Yeah. Hello, Dr. Melissa. Help. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So what I'm trying to put across here is, as much as we may, if we are as a country failing to have a lot of people getting tested because we don't have enough of the test kits, how can we have enough of the test kits for anyone who wants to go to a supermarket to check their COVID status before they go into a supermarket? So to help us and make sure that we have we are encourage more people to get vaccinated, is now to demand for the opposite, or the other one, which everyone can have access to. No one is denied to get vaccinated, but we just need to demand for that vaccination certificate for someone to enter, let's say, a certain supermarket, unless there is a doctor report or certificate to certify that this person is or she is not compatible with the type of the vaccines that we have. I think in that way we can say, but if we leave it like the way it is right now, I think it will be a little bit of a problem, and we just need to see how best we can have our people get vaccinated. Fourth wave is coming by November, by December, and our country health system cannot handle the fourth wave. If it failed to handle the third wave, what of the fourth wave? And we know very well that we are in a very bad economic status, and we need, like, urgently the country to start recovering. And the only way the country is going to recover is when we have a lot of our people are vaccinated and are back for work, and at least we are not scared of people getting sick and the disease goes to be like a surveillance kind of. That way the country is going to recover. But in a situation where we are about 3.8% who are vaccinated, and we are anticipating a very serious wave, I think I'll still stand with what I'm saying. Can we make it mandatory so that we can push up the number as soon as possible?
So Jerome,
If you've made it mandatory.
so Frank, before you come in, I think Jerome here, let's one thing is it's a bit about apples and oranges, right? So I think when you look at the UK and the availability of the lateral flow tests, I mean, we could easily say, let's make RDT kits available, widely available. But we know that there's huge supply issues when it comes to procurement of RDTs. At the moment, I think Ministry of Health largely depends on RDT kits versus the PCR test, because you get more people tested with RDTs than you get with PCR. We don't have the capacity to do massive PCR testing in Zambia, but we have the capacity to do RDT testing to a certain extent. If we have the resources, you're already saying that we're already an economically constrained nation. It means that we are procuring RDTs so that when you rock up to East Park Mall, somebody, before you even enter the door of the mall, somebody is swabbing you to test you there and there to say, okay, Jerome, you're now able to walk into the mall. However, we're not yet at that stage. I think the best thing for now is to advocate for informed decisions to be made by the populace so that they can make the decisions to get vaccinated. Once we are at that point where we're getting the information, for me, I feel that I think the other aspect I think that needs to we need to penetrate in is the church. And I think with the current political will, there is beginning more or less where we're seeing certain pastors reaching out to, people, experts, to speak in their churches to say, look, this is exactly what COVID vaccine is. This is how it's made. So that is slowly happening. We are largely a religious nation. That's why I keep on saying, let's get the vaccine information to the people. Let's begin going to the church. And I think with the political will now, I know, for instance, I can give an example. I was asked this Sunday to prepare a video that was given at a church. And that video was shared live as soon as the pastor finished. They had their offering. The church played that video because the pastor has seen that it's important that people get vaccinated because we need. It's. I think like it can't be emphasized enough that we're going to hit a fourth wave. If we're going to try and make sure that we reduce severity of disease, let's get as many people vaccinated as possible. The church is one avenue. Let's get the message out there. Let's get the message out there in ways that people can understand. Whether it's a born-again person going into the church speaking to say, I've been vaccinated. I've had my COVID vaccine, both shots. I got the Oxford AstraZeneca. I've been vaccinated. But other than being vaccinated, I also had COVID. I suffered from COVID. Thank God I didn't get severe COVID. I had mild to moderate COVID. But even that mild to moderate COVID was so, it's something I've never had before. It's an illness I've never experienced before. And I hate to imagine what severe COVID illness is. So I think it's important, let's begin to get that message out. I had COVID in the third wave. No, that's the second wave in Zambia. December to January, I was in Zambia and I had COVID. I recovered from COVID, and then a few months down the line, I made the decision to say, on top of, I know my immune system has made the antibodies that's going to protect me against another encounter of COVID. But on top of that, I want extra layers of antibodies so that whenever I hit the next variant that comes in, I will not even get the mild to moderate. It will be like, oh, did I have COVID really? So I think it's about getting the information. Let's get to the church. Let's get to the chiefs. Let's get to as many as possible. Like Frank said, Ngani Kusoweto, Tia and Kusoweto. Let's follow them where they are.
Thank you. Dr. Barbara, good evening. How are you?
Well, thank you. How's everybody? How's Jerome, Dr. Melissa Kapulu? Thank you very much for coming in. Frank, thank you for welcoming me, and everybody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So the question is, shall we go educating or shall we go mandatory? Is the question this evening.
That's a very tough one, but I'll go half and half. Reason being, in the economy where we are, we don't have a lot of money. You know, like in Europe, you can actually gamble. You can gamble with people not having a vaccine. For example, my son, the one right behind me, he's refused to be vaccinated, but then he's got the luxury of picking up these things from the pharmacy. These are the flow tests. You just walk to your pharmacy, they give it to you wherever you're going. You just blow it. You do the test yourself in the house. I think that's a luxury. If you're in Zambia, you don't have access to that. So us as medical professionals, we have a responsibility sometimes to be a bit tough-handed to protect our own people. For example, like in the beginning when TB just started and all these vaccinations, just after independence, most people didn't even know what they were getting. They didn't even have so much information about TB, but they were being protected because, let's face it, that time many people were not educated. Because right now what I've seen in most of my WhatsApp groups.
Please, can we unmute, Doc, sorry, let's mute ourselves if we are not speaking, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Jerome. In most parts of, in the WhatsApp groups, it's not people who are not educated that don't want to have the vaccine. Even the people who are educated, who've read all the information, they say they don't want to have the vaccine because there's been lack of trust, which is the most important thing. There are so many myths about the side effects. For example, just like Dr. Kapulu Melissa said, I've had COVID myself. It was moderate to mild, but to me it felt like serious. On top of that, I had long COVID. I put on about 4 stones somewhere there because I was constantly tired. I can't imagine myself in a third world country where you don't have money, having to go through all those things, where you don't have energy to wake up, you don't have energy to do so many things. That's the reason I think we have to protect our people. There's so much you can educate, and then maybe just make it mandatory, maybe for the health workers, for the teachers, because those are the ones that are mixing with the people. But it's really a tough one to say, because people will think, why are you forcing us? But at some point you have to protect, you have to protect the people. The same way we were all locked up because of COVID, because at some point the governments had to protect us from ourselves. So it's a tough one. I don't know what you guys think.
Frank, you're on mute.
It's very important we get to a point where we get the right information. I think there's something Dr. Melissa said at the beginning. We get information, but then what happens if you are in a rural area? What happens if you can't read English? How do you get that information? Who gets that information to you? Do we translate that information in all the languages so that that information is spread? Is the news for vaccines, is that being spread to everyone? Do people understand? Where do they find that information? I think it's very important, because sometimes it's easy to go, we've put that information out there, everybody should be able to get that, that information. Well, I give an example of a man or a woman were working at the market all day. Where are they going to see that information from? So you get a large majority of the population missing out on that crucial information about the vaccines. So for me, what is important is, how do we get that information to the people so that they understand the facts and the myths of having a vaccine?
Let me just ask Jerome, what's the availability like? Because whilst we're educating everyone to have the vaccine, what's the availability? Is there availability for everyone to wake up and have the vaccine? Which types of vaccines are they having? Is it the Moderna? Is it the Pfizer? Which ones are they having? Because maybe sometimes in some other groups, people are probably prepared to have a vaccine. Then they go to a clinic, they don't find it. Then they come to Facebook to look for pages to ask, where can I get the vaccine? Maybe on that side, what Frank is saying is correct, because we need more information about where can people get this vaccine? When is it available? Because now you're saying that some of them would go to West. When is it available? Where can they go? Like if somebody today woke up to say, I want to have the vaccine done, is there a toll number like the ones they had for COVID, where they can say, I'll call this number, then they'll direct me to where the closest place I can have a vaccine with? I don't know. I'm not sure about that, Jerome. Do you know?
Thank you for that. I think I'll answer that together with the concern from Frank. I understand, yes, we need to give people information, and we are giving people as much information as possible, but we should not forget that we are in an African community where someone may stop taking ARVs because someone has touched their age and say, no, you are healed, you can go and stop taking your medication. They come back 2 months later, their condition has worsened and all that. So we need to understand where we are and what type of people are we dealing with, and how can we are these people we have, how many of them can make decisions by themselves? So these are some of the things that we need to have. It's very unfortunate that even here in Zambia, we have some educated people with all the degrees you may talk about, but making a right decision, they do fail to do that. You need to make a decision on their behalf. and that's what we need to do currently, to have a lot of people be protected, or to have a lot of people being covered against the fourth wave. And coming back to the issue of do we have enough stock of the vaccines? Currently, with the numbers that we currently have, we do have enough stock. What we just need to do is to have people go get vaccinated. Currently, we have shortage of people going to get vaccinated. No wonder at this pace we are moving, we are likely to have some vaccine going to waste this month, because the pace has been so slow in the way people get vaccinated, because the number of COVID cases that we are having on a daily basis have seriously reduced to maybe 100, less than 100 on a daily basis. So people have taken it like COVID has come to an end, but that's not true. So again, until we start seeing that we are having 500, 600, 1,000, 2,000 positive cases of COVID, that's when you see people start queuing up and trying to get vaccinated. But that's not the way it's supposed to be. And if we are moving at a slow pace, or if the numbers we are getting, the number we are getting vaccinated, who are willing to get vaccinated, are very small, we are going to find ourselves wasting a lot of vaccines as compared to the vaccine that are being partaken. As you know very well, once you open these vaccines, you just need to stay for about 4 to 6 hours. Then you discard if you have not finished the 10 doses. Now, imagine we are having 1,000 people coming to get vaccinated on a daily basis countrywide. I think the number is still too small. Then currently we have about 3 vaccines that the government is giving. That is the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, the Johnson Johnson vaccine, and the Sinopharm vaccine. Besides that, the government has paid 6.3 million US dollars to procure 4.4 million doses of the Johnson Johnson vaccine. Now, with the uptake of 1,000 or less than 1,000 on a daily basis, do you think we are going to finish the 4.4 million doses of the vaccines that we are about to receive? This is why we need to change the strategy, and have the strategy that is going to make sure that everyone, especially the frontliners, are protected, and they also protect the people they are interacting with. In that way, we can say we are fighting the pandemic in a serious way. If we continue to be voluntary, imagine how many of the 4.4 million doses of the vaccine are going to go to waste, because in 6 months, we have only managed to vaccinate about 500,000. Now, how long are we going to take for us to finish the 4.4 million doses? Well, the lifespan of these vaccines is about 6 months to about 8 months. If in 6 months we can vaccinate about if it's not 300 or 400, in 6 months, how many months do we need to use or to have for us to finish the 4.4 million doses of the vaccine that are coming? No wonder the issue of mandatory is coming to play. And no wonder we are saying, if you cannot make it mandatory, just request, let all the frontliners, as they go for work, produce the vaccine certificate to say, I'm vaccinated. Then the security guards at the workplace, they say, yes, you can go in, or else we are going to waste a lot of vaccines. Let me end here for now.
Yeah. Dr. Melissa, I'm conscious it's nearly 20, it's 11:30 at night over there. Last word.
Yeah, I think for me is what I would say is if there's somebody out there who has doubts about the safety of the vaccines, I would like to assure you, hand on heart, I have been vaccinated. When I got my first jab, the only thing I had was numbness near the site of injection. When I went for my second jab, it's the same thing. I didn't have any serious side effects. I didn't have any side effects apart from numbness in my arm. and people will have a range of side effects. I mean, the other thing is that people have been worried that there was the issue about clots, there was issue about all the vaccines being stopped. What you need to know is that during the process of vaccine development, by the time a vaccine gets to you as an individual seated in Lusaka or in Masaiti or in Milengi, it has gone through a really rigorous and regulated process to ensure that it is as safe as possible to be injected. Of course, the more people you vaccinate, the more likelihood you will pick up on the really minor things that you would not have picked up by vaccinating, for instance, 100 people or 1,000 people. So some of these side effects are things that have been documented before, because some of the platforms, other than the Moderna and the Pfizer, the platforms that are used for instance, the AstraZeneca is the same platform that was used for the Ebola vaccine that was given out in Congo, DRC, and during the West Africa outbreak. It's the same platform that's being used in other vaccines. So there is data that's collected in terms of looking at the safety profile of all these vaccines. The same thing is true now, even during this period. There's data that gets collected to look at safety. Everybody, even Ministry of Health, actually through Zamra, encourages every vaccinated person to report any side effects that they have as you're getting your vaccine. That way, you're building towards that body of evidence that will show that these vaccines are truly, truly safe. So one thing to note is that a number of the, and this is one of the reasons why some of the, like we heard that, AstraZeneca has been stopped in in Germany, in Italy, in Spain. It's because as data is collected, you need to kind of, there's regulatory checks to say that, look, we've now had this side effects that's been detected. Can we stop and have a look at all the data that we have so far on side effects towards these vaccines? They reviewed all the data and found that the likelihood of getting a clot, for instance, with AstraZeneca or Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer or Moderna is less likely than through other normal means other than just the vaccine. So there's ways in which there's checks and balances that are done to ensure that whatever we're getting in the syringe is what it is. I know there's been a lot of talks that, Watipasama 666 numbers, they're putting the microchips in the vaccines, they're doing all manner of things in the vaccines. Or, in fact, we had some political leaders coming out and saying, before anybody gets the vaccine in Zambia, it should go through testing in Zambia. That's drawing us back. I mean, why would the West want to kill us if the most numbers of vaccinated has been their own population? If they wanted to wipe us out, surely by now would we be right where we are right now? We would have been gone long time ago. But there is processes and ways, and I think, I go back to what I said earlier, that I think the onus is also us on scientists to be able to communicate in a manner in which it's really understandable to the general populace. I think it's important that I think what we are learning from COVID and throughout the pandemic is that we really need to communicate the science that we do. I think the West does, to a certain extent, a good job at communicating the science. We need to do that for ourselves in the countries that we're in. There will always be vaccine hesitancy. There will always be anti-vaxxers. And like Frank said, it's important to ask the question, but it's also important to get the right information. Knowledge is important. To get the right information is really key. I think that's what I'll say for now, Frank. I'm happy to stay on because I think there's a juicy topic coming afterwards. So happy to stay on for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Melissa. We just thought it was very, very important we discuss this Now we are going to move on to politics, but because we love politics, we're TV Wakwetu, we cannot not do politics. It just doesn't happen. But Jerome, not quite wafia. We've got a problem, right? You guys are very slow. We're not happy. You're very, very, very slow. There's a feeling. There's a feeling from watching TV Wakwetu over the last few days, from listening to a lot of people in Zambia. There's a feeling. They feel that the change that they voted for is coming along very slow, and they feel like they have to force a lot of things. It's, for example, ZESCO or Ministry of Health, and everybody knows the scandals that have gone on over there. But this change has been very, very slow. So, since Mr. Kanyika, your UPND, nishtamle tekere chalo.
I like that. Before I answer, maybe Percy does very well in terms of checking what the people are talking. If maybe you can give Percy 2 or 3 minutes, or even less than that, to just read 1 or 2 comments, maybe before we will just move in so that we can answer 1 or 2 things to just follow what people are saying.
All right. Yes, please. Basically, there is one person, the one which caught my eye. There's Winfred Chikwanda. He says, if you have taken a vaccine, we are happy for you. Why are you people still wearing masks after being vaccinated? Why is it that vaccinated people are the most scared ones? That's the one which has caught my eye. The other ones, they're just the usual ones. But before the scientists comment on that, because yes, I can comment, but I'm not qualified enough. We've got qualified people to comment on that. I just want to add something in terms of the vaccinations in Zambia. There's blame to go around all over. Let me start with the current president and the former president. They are both to blame for this dilemma. Because the reason I say that, the former president, if he had stuck to the rules in terms of, oh, there's corona, let's do ABCD, and followed it through, not you are telling your friends not to campaign and you're going to campaign. Yes, your friends will start campaigning. So for me, I blame the politicians, because if the politicians were serious, the population would have been serious as well. And it would have been even be easier to teach the population or tell the population what's going on. Not when the population is looking at 2 political leaders. Meanwhile, they are saying, oh, we are going to give masks for free, when they are just campaigning. Those 2 made a big spread in Zambia. That's my point. Thank you. Anyway, now you can answer the person who's talking about the vaccine and masks.
Dr. Melissa.
Yes, thank you. I think it's not necessarily that the people who are vaccinated are scared and are the ones that are the most scared. Why are they still wearing masks? At the end of the day, what the vaccines are doing is they're preventing people from getting severe COVID. So they're preventing people from ending up in the ICU. When you're vaccinated, there is still likelihood that you will get infected. But what the vaccines are doing is that they help that you do not end up in Levy Hospital hooked up to oxygen. So I, as a vaccinated individual, yes, I am wearing masks religiously, because I know that there is possibility that those around me are not privileged as I am to get the vaccine. So I'm going to try by all means to reduce the risk of the person next to me to get COVID, because I might by chance be infected, but I might not be exhibiting symptoms. So it's not that we are scared. It's because we're trying to do it for the greater good, knowing that we have not reached that stage in which we can say not kuvala ma mask because we don't have a lot of people who are vaccinated. The UK right now is privileged to allow people not to wear masks because they've gotten a good percentage of the eligible population vaccinated, such that they're now offering the vaccine to even teenagers and even offering booster shots because at least they've gotten to a certain level of herd immunity to a certain extent. Whereas where we are in our developing countries, we're not yet there. So I would rather wear a mask and protect you who's next to me because I'm not sure if I have the virus at that particular time. And everybody has vulnerabilities that might lead them hooked up to oxygen at either Manasoko, Levy, or UTH. So city or bayani, it's a matter of protecting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Any more vaccine? I think we're going to move on to politics now because our resident.
Yes, Frank. I think she has answered well. Let me just answer now the other question. Since
Yes.
spaces the aspect that you have engaged the people are following us through Facebook and other platforms. But coming to the issue of the slow pace, I think this evening we have seen that the Secretary to Cabinet contract has been terminated by the president, and he has dissolved the boards for Zambia Airways, Zamtel, Zesco, and I've forgotten the other one, which he has terminated. Also, he has gone further to terminate the contract for the CEO for. I'm getting a feedback. Is Frankie or Frankie? Please unmute yourself. Oh, mute yourself. Thank you. And he has also gone further to terminate the contract for the board chairman for ZCCM. When you see that, at least we are able to say that the president is at least listening to what we are saying and what other people are saying. And this shows much confidence in that the president is ready to govern the country and he has people to help. And from there, you have seen that even the State House Permanent Secretary, who was just newly appointed, has been pushed or been moved to cabinet. So itself, that tells you to say, unlike what other PF people are trying to say that we are not ready to govern, I think that's not very true. It is the matter of going in a systematic and medical way for us to get the best results from what we usually have. I know, yes, the Ministry of Health, there are a lot of issues that need to be sorted there. And I know very well that the president has had a lot of our talks concerning the Ministry of Health and the changes that's supposed to be there, especially on the permanent secretary level. We need, yes, the president to act. Once he acts on the permanent secretary level, then the new permanent secretary who are coming to be there, they'll make sure that they make decisions now in terms of these other institutions and on the directorship level for the Ministry of Health. And for your own information, tomorrow the president at 10 hours, he will be on Nature Phoenix discussing with the members of the public and also talking about what so far the president has done. And just like yesterday, the Minister for Justice said, it looks like UPND is in office for 2 years. For God's sake, it's not yet 2 years, it's just weeks. But look how people are talking, especially the PF side, where they are attacking us, even on the budget that themselves they made. PF made the budget. We inherited the budget. But we told them before the budget was even approved. I remember Honorable Jack Mwimbu, Honorable Cornelius Mitwa, Honorable Garin Kombo talking on the floor of Parliament about the budget for 2021. And we told the PF to say, this budget you have made, you are going to lose the elections because it has no aspirations of the proper budget. They didn't want to listen. Today, who has come to attack the same budget which we are inherited from them? The same PF. So you can see how disorganized the PF and its party is, and its members of the of which people, including the vice president himself. I call him given Nuvinda Banyara. You see how they have tried to come and get confused and start attacking things they started themselves and the budget they approved themselves. So for me,
Okay, Jerome, I can see your UPND passion just flowing out of you there. Right, we're going to let's get some views across. So, Wamkelawai, Kimazi Wandate. So we can from what Jerome is saying. From what Jerome is saying.
Yes,
from
please.
What Jerome is saying, we can argue from what Jerome is saying that the president heard the president had the argument of people, had the debates of people, and going to the actions this evening that have been the firings that have occurred this evening. Can we argue that the president listened to the people's voices, or can we still say the president is too slow to act? What is
no, I can't actually. I can't argue on that aspect where the president is now coming up and responding to most of these people's cry, including our cry from Bakwetu. We have been crying for action because there has been a lot of viva voce, talking, lip service, and without any action. We see the perpetrators walking, gallivanting the streets of Lusaka, Copper Belt, Livingstone. They're enjoying themselves. They even go on the media, even with binoculars, some of them, and they do all kind of crazy stuff. And we are quiet as though we are in hibernation. And to hear that today, what president Hakainde Hichilema has come out and terminated the contract, like I said, the contract can be terminated at any given time. There's nothing like no, because you are stipulated, you have to stick to the period. No. That was very good. I'm not arguing with the president. That is good. That's what we want as Zambian. But there are few issues that we want your people, Hakainde Hichilema, to carry on, because they are not doing the job. It's not your battle alone, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. It's not your battle alone. It is the battle of the UPND, and together with the 2.8 million people, including the 11th province in the diaspora, us that live in the diaspora. We are there for you. We are going to support you, and we want to see things being done. That's what we want. We don't want to be reminding you each and every day when you see that these people have messed up the nation and you still rub shoulders with them. Then you start raising a lot of suspicions from us. So we don't want that to happen. We want these people to be out of employment, to be away from government institutions, because we are scared they may sabotage your work. 2, we want them out. We want them to go before the justice, before the courts of law, to answer questions to how they amassed the wealth that they have today. Because we want to know, we need answers. When the country is limping, we even defaulted to our debtors, but them, they have millions. How is that possible? So those are questions that we want. We want Hakainde Hichilema not to start talking about forgiveness. We want answers, and we want to see action. Put them behind bars. Wakajova. Alulati kuina fela mali pulange muhola mashere ni aluna for free. We want to see, please, revive all those cases that were in slumber from PF. Bring them back. That's what we want. What Dr. Melissa?
Gladys.
Oh yeah, it's okay. Let me give time to others. Sorry, I was going.
You're going. I noticed you're going. But Gladys, so What is your view? What is your view? Is the president being methodical, taking time? And are you happy with the time everything is taking? Or can you say things could be done a lot faster? Or can we say, let's give the president time to do what he needs to do in his own methodical way?
Thank you, Saliki, and good evening, everyone, and good evening, viewers. Unfortunately, I'll take you back to the COVID-19 instead of the politics, because there will be no politics without healthy people. There will be no politics if in the country there's nobody who's alive. So apparently, I'm diverting you. So I have a question for Dr. Kapulu and Jerome Kanyika, because you are the people in the health. I would like to ask you, besides the vaccination, as Jerome is saying, he's trying to say that people should be obligated to be vaccinated, which I don't agree. I would like to ask you, what implementation are you putting in place in terms of sanitation? Because you know that we have a problem with good sanitation. We have bad toilets in the market, and that's where you find a big crowd. And those people are not provided with a clean environment. We don't have the council who are looking after the toilets. We probably don't have the sanitizers, which are free. People won't afford to buy kashuga and then nokuya mkushita sanitizer. I expect that the government should be the Ministry of Health should probably provide such small things and clean water as well to have healthy people. Otherwise, there will be more politics. We're not going to talk politics. Thank you. So can you kindly tell me what's your implementation?
Okay. Before Dr. Melissa comes in, I think one thing that you need to know and the one thing that you need to see is in the new John government, there is a ministry just specifically for that, sanitation and whatever thing which is there. And that ministry, according to the 2020 budget, you'll see how much money is going to be given, because we are looking at how we can handle out all those issues of sanitation and the water problem that we may have in this country in different areas, especially the public places. As you know very well that when rain season starts in Zambia, it's like a year in, year out disease of cholera comes to affect our people. But with that ministry and with the UPND 2022 budget, our first ever budget, you'll see that there are a lot of resources that have been put in place to different ministries. And moreover, there will be more resources in the Ministry of Local Government. There will be more resources in the Ministry of Health. There will be more resources in the Ministry of Water and Sanitation and other ministers. I've forgotten the name clearly. So each self, again, not only that, you find that there's also some money that we may use or get from another ministry that similarly talks about almost similar things but different. That's the Ministry of Green Environment. So there'll be money everywhere, and it's about money for you to do and work accordingly. And this is what the UPND government is trying to bring into the 2022 budget. So as much as we have those things today, but I can assure you, by the time the 5 years of UPND is going to end, to come to an end, you'll find that those problems will be reduced by maybe less than 30 to 20%. As of now, we still have, yes, that problem due to lack of funding to these important facilities that we need to look into. No wonder you have seen councils, no, not cleaning or what. We have councils that have stayed for 6 months, 8 months not being paid. How can they go clean the toilets? But with the new John government, we have the money available for such kind of activities in the 2022 budget.
Thank you, Gladys. And I think just to add on to what Jerome has said, and to also echo what you've said, I'm glad to hear that the UPND government will have loads of money next year in the budget to go around all these things. So I think after a year, we need to hold Jerome and the UPND government to account. We need to get Jerome back on this platform and say, Jerome, wali promise mpia shirikwisa. So I think it's important. Any disease needs to be looked at in a multi-sectorial way. And I think there was always talk about this. We need a multi-sectorial approach to fighting COVID. I think it could have been as a result of cash constraint of the economy. But I remember the first time COVID came up and WHO director was talking about how people need to wash their hands. I just stopped and told somebody, you're asking people to wash their hands. They don't have access to clean water. They don't have access to water, period. So where are they going to get the water and soap to be able to wash their hands? They fight to get good, clean water to cook. How are we now going to say, go and wash your hands with soap and water? Again, it comes that it's not, and it's not unique to COVID. It's for every pathogen, whether it's cholera, whether it's typhoid, even malaria. If we built good houses, drained the swamps, drained the dumbos, we would get rid of all the mosquito breeding sites. We'd get good housing. Then would reduce a lot of these infectious diseases. Where Frank sits in the UK, they used to have cholera. They used to have some parts of southern France, Italy, they used to have malaria, but they cleaned up the swamps, cleaned up the streets, provided good water, good sanitation, and voila, those diseases no longer affect them. Only when they are traveling do they need to have a cholera jab to protect them. A multi-sectorial approach. So we are all keeping an eye on what the 2022 budget looks like, because we want to see what gets afforded, what goes to social welfare, what goes to health, what goes to socioeconomic aspects of the budget. Because we want to see, we don't want a situation where coming into 2020, we have another, infectious disease outbreak that we cannot fight properly because there's disjointment in some of these things. And I think ministers, technocrats in all these ministries need to learn to sit together on the same table and make a plan, because one ministry of Health on their own cannot fight this. Even in terms of, we saw in the UK, the army came in when it came to COVID, providing enough beds to ensure COVID patients were being treated. We need to kind of have ways in which there's really good linkages from all the different departments so that we can have good health for everybody. Like you said, without health, there's no politics. Over.
Thank you so much. One question, it links so much. Without health, there's no politics. I like that. And there's a lot from that, just that little discussion. There's a lot from me that's been going through my mind. But Percy, are we expecting too much too soon from the new government? So, for example, we see people who were campaigning to say, they went to demonstrate to say, where is free education after like a few weeks of the government being in power? Are we expecting too much too soon? Is it really fair to expect so much change, so much change very fast after all the damage that's been caused by the PF over the last 10 years?
Okay, my answer will be in two. There are some things I would say they are acting too slowly, but when it comes to just what you mentioned, the free education, that's being unrealistic. Anybody who is talking about free education right now is being unrealistic. Sometimes you have to be realistic with certain things. Yeah, in terms of that, it's being unrealistic. That's too early to start talking about that. But when it comes to appointments, For example, the boards which were dissolved today, those boards would have been dissolved from day one. Right now, they've put people who are supposed to be in those posts. Right now, those people, they'll be sitting on their own. They would have known what they are doing. That's what I think. But for me, I've given them 90 days. In that 90 days, I expect that everyone is seated under the desks. I don't want to hear Babuaria at the press release at somebody's fired. No, that by 90 days, that should stop. Everyone who's supposed to be fired should be fired. Everyone who's supposed to be behind the desk should go and sit behind the desk and start doing the job. At the moment, yes, at the rate they are going, with my timetable, yes, they're kind of late. I'll leave it right there because back to Arambo point.
But Jeremy's sat there. Jeremy sat there just smiling. He's got like sneaky smile. Now, but Jerome, let's be fair. Let's be fair, right? When you lot were campaigning, I'm going to say you lot because you're UPND. When you lot were campaigning, you should have known who to put in these positions. Who was going to go into these positions? You knew, because we all knew, you knew what ministries were problematic. You knew what people were there. You knew what sort of corruption was going on at ZESCO. And what the people are asking is, why has it taken 60 days to remove these people when everybody knew what was going on? That is a big question.
Okay, thank you, Frank, for that. Yeah, as we are campaigning, we had and we still have a lot of people to occupy most of the positions and the other vacancies that may be created due to changes of some people or some people being transferred from this ministry to another ministry. But on the other hand, which is there is everyone at the end of the day will be very much happy. But again, the president needs to settle before he tries to destabilize other ministries by firing a lot of people. So in this situation, he would have tried by all means to fire, but again, it was the matter of being methodical in terms of the way he's doing. And I can assure you, so far he's doing so well, and at least he has acted. He listens, he's listening. And moreover, there are a lot of advisors who are trying to talk to the president and all that. Though, yes, there is a little bit of slow pace, but we have people to occupy these positions. And some people, if they are not...
Do you see how it looks? So with the president, with him acting...
I just wanted to ask him a question. But Frank, I want to ask him direct a question. Thank you. Let's be realistic. You guys, the time you were campaigning, as Frank has already said, everyone in the nation knew that you were going to win the elections, unless you guys who were UPND didn't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
My point here is, you guys, I have been singing about this, and even when the general was here, I even told him the answer he gave me, I wasn't satisfied. I even mentioned it as well. You guys, the time you were running around, you should have had a skeleton of people who are educated. I even asked you that, don't you have committees in your party? You told me that you are actually in the health committee, so you are partly to blame.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We have to be realistic. So
can I say something?
For me, I don't get what you are saying. For me, you are kind of a bit late. Your Minister of Information as well, you have to do something about it. Thank you.
Can I just support
Can I say something?
To ask a question for a while. Let's go to Muhammad, then I'm going to go to Dr. Barbara. Muhammad.
Good evening, all. It's nice to see you all, especially Jeremy in a suit. It looks very ministerial. Uh, a- anyway, I would like to discuss two things, linking one to the other. The first topic, which Dr. Melissa Kapulu was talking about, and linking to the slowness of the action that's politically in debate at the moment. Uh, Dr. Melissa will agree with me, and she knows we have been working together in quite a few things on GAZAP, which is a global alliance of Zambian health professionals, and we're doing some work supplying donations into Zambia. The problem was and is still a problem at Ministry of Health. We have a lot of bureaucracy, and we have a lot of sort of active members on the board who are frustrating a lot of development. Yes, this new Dawn government has the political will to correct. That brings me to the point that we are slow still. We need to get some sort of action implemented, especially COVID. When COVID, the fourth round comes in, we are going to be having a major problem, a major problem. And the situation on the ground and what the indicators are that things will get messy. Look at now. I was reading somewhere there is a typhoid outbreak somewhere in Lusaka. This shows what Gladys was saying, that water sanitation, we don't have proper stuff, no toilet facilities properly. And these are all interrelated. It's not just Minister of Health, but we've got different sectors that needs to be addressed ASAP. Yes, methodical action is being taken by the president, and hopefully he now speeds it up. He had the start, and now 8 weeks, 7 8 weeks in his situation of power. He should now take some deliberate steps to work on the health sector and the COVID crisis. We saw the launch of the COVID recently, and I was a bit amazed the amount of intermixing with people there, and
Sorry,
didn't.
Mohammed. Sorry, Mohammed. You don't know. You're still making a point. I think I've just looked at the time, and we've gone way
Okay.
above
Can I
the
can,
time.
can I just round it off, especially? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose we'll carry on in the back room. But basically, what we need to understand that we have to follow examples of original. Look at Zimbabwe, how much vaccination has taken place, and vaccination is key. Dr. Kapulu is fairly right on that. We must indoctrinate vaccination to every Tom, Dick, and Harry of Zambia. I can stop at the moment on that.
Thank you, Mohammed. We're going to carry on in the background. So much to talk about, but we've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a TV Wakwetu presentation. Thank you so much to Dr. Melissa, who joined us here to give us some information on vaccine. Make sure you get as much information as you like. So also, don't forget, get some stars. We get our stars. TV Wakwetu is run by volunteer. We do it for free. So our stars, your stars go a long way. So don't forget to get your stars. God bless Zambia. God bless everybody wherever we are today. Good night. God bless and see you soon.